So in this video, we're going to talk about emotional manipulation by guilt. That is when someone makes you do or not do something because he or she makes you feel guilty. We talk about why that happens, how you can spot that kind of situation, and how you can best deal with it. And hey, if this is the first student that we meet, I'm Jonas Erb, and on this channel we talk about authenticity and personal growth. We provide tools and ideas that help you gain clarity, freedom, and fulfillment in your life. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing. So what is emotional manipulation by guilt? Let's illustrate this with a very simple but extreme example. So I'm driving on the road with my car and come to a crossroads. My light is green and the other side has red. And I just go on, carry on driving with my car, and another person comes while they have red. They actually crash into me. My car is completely destroyed and the other person's car is still okay. And the other person comes out of the car, shouts at you and says like, why did you pull up? Why didn't you look? I was coming from the right, and blah, blah, blah. A couple of days later, he calls you and says, hey, I'm feeling so much pain in my back and blah, blah, blah. And he makes you responsible for everything that happened. And you start to feel guilty, you start to feel bad, you start to feel like, oh, how can I help this person? Oh, this person feels so bad, has had neck pain and blah, blah, blah. But actually, it's not your problem, it's not your responsibility. Your car is destroyed and the other person crossed the red light and didn't follow the rules and was wrong. The other person is actually responsible for the accident. Okay, maybe I could have looked better to the right and I might have been able to not basically avoid this accident, but I was still doing what I was supposed to do, that was driving on the green light. And so the important thing to notice there is that actually there's kind of like a reality distortion going on. I start to take on the lenses of the other person and forgetting about my own reality and thinking what was my part. And if you're an empath that really feels about how other people feel, you might actually get into this situation where you start to really feel, okay, I want to know how you're feeling, and I always see my part in it. What is my part in it? What is my part in it? And that's a very beautiful trait, because like that you can build very beautiful relationships, really understanding what is my part, what is your part, and you can start to grow together and so on. But if the other person is more kind of egoistical or narcissistic, or just more only kind of wanting their needs to be fulfilled and not caring so much about your needs, then what happens is that you start to care about the other person's needs while the other person doesn't care about your needs, and then you will always be the one that is kind of responsible for any bad situation that happens. Other examples of emotional manipulation are if you're in a relationship and you want to spend some time with yourself and just want to spend an evening by yourself, go to bed early, the other person starts to make a drama about it or say, hey, it starts to make you feel bad about wanting to stay home, making you responsible for how they feel. That's also emotional manipulation. Trying to manipulate you into guilt, to feeling guilty about doing what you feel right for you to do. Other examples are if you want to go to an event or do this or that kind of thing, and maybe the other person is jealous or has some other issue with that. The other person then tries to manipulate you into doing something else and starts to maybe accuse you of like reasons why you want to do it that aren't even true. And then I start to think, okay, what was my part in it? What wasn't my part in it? But actually, that's not healthy, because then I start to really take on the lenses of the other person and forget that actually what is my responsibility? My responsibility is to follow my own truth, follow how I feel, like what feels true for me and right for me. And the other person has to do what feels true and right for them. And of course I can see, how can I, while being true to myself, also see that your needs are fulfilled if possible, and really care for the other person as well. But I have to be very careful not to lose a connection with my own real reality and truth, and what I feel is the right way of dealing with a situation. And so, and if you have those kind of situations in your life, or you have a friendship or a relationship or something where you feel, okay, I feel like I'm being manipulated by guilt. I start to take on the reality of someone else. I start to act up on my guilt, feeling guilty instead of feeling what is the right thing to do. I start to feel what what I feel like doing because I feel so guilty. If this is what happens with you, then let's talk about how can we deal with that. How can we first spot the situation? How can we best deal with it? And how can we kind of transform those situations? First thing you need to do is to notice that there is this guilt manipulation going on. Start to notice how are you feeling. Are you feeling guilty, and are you feeling like acting out of guilt? Then most probably a guilt manipulation is going on. And so the second step is really to start to see, is there any reality distortion going on? Because if you're empathetic and you really are really caring about how the other person feels, and you will always see like, what is my part in it? You start to see, okay, what is my part in it? And then look at, do I also see what is the other person's part? Do I see both people's part in it? And then see, what about the other person? Does the other person see their part in the situation? And do they also see your part in the situation? And if they're only seeing your part in the situation, and you start to feel so guilty and you start to take on their view that you are only responsible for the situation, then there's a reality distortion going on. You really need to be careful that you don't take on such a perspective where there's only one person being responsible for the situation, and most oftentimes that's you. And so really be careful about that, because once you take on this other person's reality, then you're lost. You're completely lost, because then you're completely in the guilt and like, oh my God, I'm fully responsible for all of that mess. So and the third step then is to really start to acknowledge that feeling of guilt. Start to really feel the guilt. Start to relax into the guilt. And I'm talking a lot about releasing on this channel, so you can check out some more videos about releasing. I'll link one up here. And so really feel into that feeling of guilt and start to learn to relax into that and get to a point where you feel at ease and relaxed, which then leads us to the fourth step, which is finding out what is your real truth in that moment. What you really want to do. What would you do if you weren't feeling guilty? How would you handle the situation? And so, for example, when I want to stay home and relax and reload my energies instead of seeing my girlfriend or whatever, then I would say, okay, I stay home because that's my truth. Or if you are in the case of the accident, like, I'm not responsible for your headache because of the accident, because I'm not responsible for that. So I stay with my truth and don't waste my energy in trying to care for the other person for stuff that I'm not responsible for. And if you want to go to an event and the other person feels a little uncomfortable, but that is my truth and I want to do that, I do that. And I do not do it just because of the guilt. So that's really how you can deal with it. Let me know in the comments what happens when you apply those tips, and also let me know what are situations where you felt you start to feel to act out of this feeling of guilt. And hey, if you like the video, please hit the like button. And if you enjoy watching this kind of content, then consider subscribing and turn on the notifications bell so you'll be notified when new videos are gonna come out. And hey, there's so many videos on this channel. I invite you to watch some more of them. This one is the one that YouTube thinks you would like the most, and this one is a most recent video. So have fun watching and have a great day. Goodbye.